Good morning, everyone. It's author Randy Weir, R. Weir, coming to you from Colorado. It's been a few weeks since my last Bringing Life to Characters podcast. Did a bunch of traveling. We were away for almost 3 full weeks. Went to Nashville, Tennessee for 2 of those, and then we were back for a few days and up in Loveland, Colorado for a car show. But we had a good time. I got a lot of guests I got to meet when I was in Nashville. People have agreed to be on, some really well-known authors. And I'm looking forward to a lot of episodes coming up, including today. But I was going to throw up a couple of things. One of the most fun aspects of BoucherCon, which was the second event I got to, is there's a lot of well-known authors there. And anyone who knows who Lee Child is, he writes the Reacher books, pretty well known. Well, people may not know he's actually transitioning to his brother to take over, Andrew Child. And Andrew Child, I got to meet him and take a picture with him. A little bit blurry there, but there's Andrew. He's a tall guy like his brother, so I had to angle the camera up, being well over 6 foot tall, whereas I'm a whole 5'9". But it was great getting to talk with him, and I didn't quite have the courage to ask him about being on the podcast, but I may reach out to him. He was a great guy, and he was talking about how Lee broke to him the news about that he didn't want to write Reacher anymore, and he was looking for another author, and his brother was an author as well. And so but he broke the news to him during driving from a ground blizzard between Colorado and Wyoming, because they both live up in Tie Siding, Wyoming, and which was very funny. So hopefully one day I can get him on. But he was also on a panel here with a bunch of other well-known authors who have taken over for legacy characters. Lee Child taking over, or Andrew taking over for the Reacher character. Reed Farrell Coleman, which was a great guy. I got to talk to him too. Didn't get a picture with him, but I'm hoping to get him on as well. He took over for the Jesse Stone series for Robert Ludlum, and that's Reed right here in the smiling there, the man holding up, Simon Javaris. Robert Ludlum, he took over some of the books for him. The other gentleman down here with the beard is Mark Cameron. He's doing the Tom Clancy, Jack Ryan books. And then the last gentleman, Brian Quartermouse, he did Stuart Woods, and he had kind of the opposite opinion. He took over, and it did not go very well. So when he was when he took over for writing for Stuart Woods, and it was kind of a negative experience, but it was great getting to see them. And then in Nashville, we also got to do a little bit of sightseeing. We got to go to the Madame Trousseau Wax Museum there, and I got to take a picture with Bono. That'll probably be the closest I ever get to Bono, and a bunch of other wax figures I could throw them up. Anyone who gets my newsletter or goes to my website can see a whole bunch of the other pictures, but that was kind of a fun, cool experience. And then the car show that we did in Loveland, if you love classic cars, and my Jarvis man drives a 69 Mustang, which I still haven't found someone that has that as exact Mustang yet. But this Corvette was incredible. That color, the picture doesn't do it justice. In the sun, I have no idea what that color is, but that had to be a $10,000 paint job that was on that car. It was just incredible. And then I love this cherry red Camaro and the beautiful engine and stuff. I mean, it was just amazing to me. So if you love cars, if there's a good guy car show, and they do car shows all over the country, and you love old cars, definitely go to those event when it's in your town, because there are some amazing cars and you'll be drooling. I wish I had the money to walk away with one, because some of them were for sale, but haven't sold enough books yet for that. So, but anyway, enough about me. We're going to bring on our first guest today. He is an audiobook producer. He has done 2 of my books, which I really thought he did a great job with. And he's doing some more books, and always looking for more great books to bring on. So we'll bring him on, and it's Phillip Polite. Hi, Phillip. How's it going today?
I'm good. What about you?
Great here in Colorado. It's a little early in the morning. Hopefully, we'll get some people on. If not, they can watch us the recording later. But it's a little later there. You're out in the East Coast, so it's almost not quite lunchtime, depending on what time you eat lunch. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Philip, and what keeps you going during the daytime.
Well, I'm 27. I'm from Georgia. I've been producing audiobooks for it'll be 2 years in December. Uh, it's not full time yet, but I'm hoping to get there soon. You know, like you said, got to sell some more of these audiobooks. So, yeah, uh, just just doing that. Bit of a nerd, like anime, video games, books, obviously. So yeah, this is
Anime video games, huh? So
well, anime and video games.
animes and video games. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so you get the controller wrist whatever the buttons on the repetitive syndrome of playing a lot of video games.
yeah. I always say I have that carpal tunnel, but it's I do have a habit of gaming for a few hours, pretty much late at night. When I should be working on the book. So that is something I'm working on, but
Little stress relief,
low stress relief. Yeah,
little stress relief out there.
yeah,
So obviously you say you're not full time, so you have another job that helps to pay the bills. So
yes, sir. I work for the Cab County school system. So uh,
oh,
yeah, uh, been doing that since last year. Uh,
so but the day will come hopefully when you can maybe put that in the rearview mirror and produce audiobooks.
I pray for it every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Well, being an author, I know how that goes. We every author wants to be a full-time author, and it's pretty rare. It's a small percentage, other than the really big names like the pictures I showed earlier. Those guys probably are full-time authors. But even some other successful authors still work, and I always wondered when they have time to write. You know, working a full-time job and doing it. And I'm sure you run into that too, working and finding the time to.
yeah. This the sleep depravity is real.
Well, you're young. You don't need to sleep, right? You got plenty of time to sleep later when you get older, like myself.
Yeah.
So obviously, being an audiobook producer, you must have enjoyed books. You love, and I'm guessing you're 27, so you know the days a little bit before audiobooks. So people read real books. So what did you like to read? What genres did you enjoy reading growing up as a kid, teenager, and into your 20s now?
Uh, I was mostly into sci-fi. Well, when I was a kid, I was really into mystery books. There was this kid mystery series. I think it was called Cam Jansen or something like that.
Mhm.
I read those all the time. As I got older, got more into sci-fi and just regular fiction, like fantasy and stuff. So, some Lord of the Rings type stuff. I like that.
Oh, Lord of the Rings, huh? Those are
Yeah,
some big books to read.
yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't made my way through the whole physical book, but the movies, just play.
Yeah. So you always like to read then. What do you remember your earliest what age you were when you picked up that first book that really grabbed your imagination and
Um, I can't say a specific one. I don't know. Like I can't really remember, but I mean, I got before I started doing audiobooks, I'm a really avid listener of audiobooks.
Mhm.
So, and I think, audiobooks, it's weird, but they have a different way of grabbing your imagination and just drawing you into it. Uh, One of the first books that really caught my attention there was this book series called Cradle by Will White. It's this fiction series, and it's like 13 books in the series, and I started reading it when the writer was still making it, so I would have to wait every so often before the
Right.
next one would come out, and it was just hearing the main character story, and just walking with him with that journey. That that was one of the, I guess, biggest experience I had, like, to what you're talking about, just really grabbing my attention and drawing me in, into that world. So,
So was it the same narrator for all the books?
yeah, yeah, uh, entire series.
That's great.
Yeah.
'Cause you like that continuity in a series, the voice, the same voice. Because I mean, everybody has a different voice and everybody does the characters different. Well, there are a lot of the same characters throughout the series as well? Obviously, probably the main characters were in there, but
Yeah, there's a group of about 6 or 7 characters that stayed throughout the entire series. So you stuck with them too, besides the main character. So yeah.
so was that when you said, "I think I'd like to do this," or what kinda got you into saying, I think I'd like to try this. I think I could have my hand at it." Because you do a lot. I mean, you've done a couple of my books, and you have a lot of different voices. You maybe not Rich Little, but you do a lot of different voices and a different nationality, accents, things like that. So,
Uh, I'd say I've always been good with doing accents and emulating other people's voices since I was a kid. I never really thought about making it a career. Um, I'd say during the pandemic, that was where I really got into audiobooks and just binge listening all throughout the pandemic because I was working from home. But the thing that really pushed me to do this, I had been on edge about it for a while, and in December of it was 2 years ago, so I'd say December 21, 20. I can't really remember. But anyway, um, my dad had passed.
mhm.
He had passed right before the new year, and I guess when dealing with loss, it gives you like an introspective look at your life, and with that, I just knew what I was doing. I wouldn't say happy. I'd say complacent. With where I was, and I knew that I wanted to find something that fulfilled me, just
Mhm.
genuinely I'll be happy, enjoy doing, and at the same time would hopefully be profitable. Uh, and like I said, I've been on edge about doing this, so I just took the leap after you know him passing. So that was what really pushed me to do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, events in your in lives obviously push us to move on. Whether it's grief or in this like the pandemic, all those things. I mean, a lot of people went through a lot of retrospective. I'm sure anytime something like that happens, so you find that whatever that's going to carry you on, or maybe you sit there and say, okay, I'm ready for that next step in life. So how long have you been producing audiobooks? When
Uh, it's been 2 years, so I guess December 2022. Yeah, December 2022. That was when I got my first book. Um, I had COVID at the time that the contract was sent, so I was like, it was weird because I did the first couple chapters sick, and my voice was like all grainy and messed up, and then eventually I had to go back and redo those. But yeah, and just doing an audiobook for the first time, it's a very interesting experience because it's very different from just recording like a couple minutes of something compared to like going through the process of recording a whole book. And I don't know why, but it's at some point in my mind, I was thinking, like these audiobook producers, they would just do like one long recording, just
right?
one long recording, and then it just. But that in hindsight, that does not make sense at all. So, but yeah, I've been doing it for 2 years and I've enjoyed doing it. Met some interesting people like yourself, and just these creative minds that create these entire worlds and these characters, and they asked me to bring it to life through audio. And it's, like I said, for the most part, every one of them has been an amazing experience. You occasionally get clashing personalities and stuff, but for the most part, it's been it's been amazing.
So the first book you did, what was the name of the book?
It's one of the covers you got, Mysteria. Uh,
Yeah, Stereo. Yeah. So
yeah,
there's the cover for it.
yeah. This is actually the author's second book in this series. He had the first one done through audio, but the producer he worked with, like I said, they clashed with each other, and they. I think the narrator wasn't really communicating with him, and stuff wasn't panning out the way he wanted it to. The audiobook still came out, but he just wasn't happy with the final product, so he went to look for another narrator and found me. So,
Has he thought about re-recording that first book and using you if he was happy with what your work did?
he actually talked to me about that a
Yeah.
while ago. Yeah, he's over in the UK, but yeah, he talked to me about that a while ago. He's doing a second edition of the book, and he wanted me to do that one. He hasn't really gotten back to me on that one. He's off and on with communication sometimes, but he did say he wanted me to do that, and his other books going forward. So yeah.
Your audio is kind of coming and going at times, so just let you know. I don't know where your microphone is, but yeah.
Mm.
Oh, you get yeah. As I say, you should have a pretty good microphone being an audio.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
your voice is a little bit so it just kind of comes and go. Maybe it's a directional mic, so maybe that's why when you move a little bit
Uh,
it may.
I mean, I have it. Okay. Well,
Yeah, right there I hear. Yeah. Right
okay.
there you're good, but
I'll try to just stay facing this way then.
yeah. So yeah, so that's always important between a writer and an audio producer having that communication. Obviously, in your case, what 5 hour time difference I think or so that sometimes can be an issue. But whether it's email or you're doing it through was it through ACX that you two connected? Is that how you did?
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely have to communicate and as a someone who has had books created, I've had some created by several, and I went through before I found you for the Divine Devils. I had three different narrators that started and never finished for whatever basic reasons. One got COVID, or actually his wife got really sick and he couldn't continue and had to stop. The other one, it just the voice just wasn't working right, and so I'm like, no, we're and he was like, nope, it's not working for me either. So and all that, but um, obviously when you're finding books, so is ACX how you've always found all your authors, or have you had other ways that you found authors? And ACX is basically Audible. It's Amazon Audible.
When I first started, when I ran into you, it was always ACX. But since I've started getting more narrators, more authors, I have had people recommend me to other authors, and I've also found my way to into contact with different publication companies that you know want a narrator to produce their books. So it's not entirely ACX anymore, but the majority of it is still ACX. So some of it is word of mouth, and some of it is just direct contact. So,
So how do you? So in ACX, I mean, there must be gobs of books that get tossed into ACX looking for a producer. How do you go about finding a book that grabs your interest?
uh, well, when I first started, I was just looking for anything I could grab, uh, and that's not entirely the case anymore. I'm past the point. I think I'm at the first year was just getting myself established and getting work. Now it's more about, I guess, consolidating my business, building it up, and I guess becoming profitable. And uh, a lot of the authors on ACX, they mainly go for royalty share,
Right.
uh, which I can understand because, like you said, a lot of authors aren't full time. They can't afford to do this full time, and they necessarily can't afford to pay their audiobook producer what they may be asking for. So royalty share is the best option. But in reality, for an audiobook producer, it's not. It's basically asking them to essentially work for free, depending on how the sales of the audiobooks go. But that's a coin flip essentially. Um, but so I'm at the point where I'm not doing work unless I know I'm getting either royalty share plus or per hour rate, because I can't afford to do you know uh,
Sure.
yeah. So but outside of that, I also look for genres that interest me, like mystery or sci-fi or fiction, and then I look through the synopsis, see if what the story's about will intrigue me, piques my interest. And doing the audition itself kind of helps determine whether or not this would be something I would enjoy doing, or looking it over and then recording recording the audition itself. That really helps me get a feel for whether this would be a story I would enjoy bringing to life or not. So, uh,
Yeah, because as an author, you put out there, you do a synopsis, and then you put a chapter, a sample chapter or whatever that you record, and then the author gets to listen to those, and it's an audition in effect. Gets to listen to those. I think the first book for me, The Divine Devils, I think I did one of the later chapters, if I remember right. And you'll hear it, and for me, it's the voice, obviously, and there are parameters that we put in. We're looking for, you know, a male author, fairly deep voice, or maybe you want a high pitch voice or someone with a range, and you put a lot of different parameters in there, and I'm sure those. And sometimes when you put those in, it'll pop up and say, well, these authors will fill those parameters as well. But obviously, until you hear it, you don't have an idea. And even sometimes, even the audition um, might not be enough. It might be those first couple chapters, and then you go, yeah, no, this isn't quite working, or whatever. And I know in my case, I would get, as soon as you put the book in, usually you get quite a few people saying I'm interested, and they'll do it. But the longer it's on ACX, the less people seem to be looking for. So I know in your case, if I remember right, you had done an audition and I had picked someone else, and I think you re-recorded the audition of the first one
I
um,
did.
a second time. And I think I remember I liked your audition. I just liked someone a little better, but then they had to pull out of the project on me, and then it was kind of starting over again. It was almost, I think it was more than a year before I finally was able to get going on this book. I keep telling everybody, is like, I have an audiobook coming out for The Divine Devils here soon. And something just kept happening. Once I got to you, it was full steam ahead. We never really had any issues at all. So, but yeah, the royalty share is definitely first time author. And I think for me, when we did the second book, I wanted to pay you for it because obviously my sales weren't that great for the first book, but I wanted the same voice. And I think that's important for series, to have that same voice, um, characterizations. And, I've got another series of Jarvis Man. I've had two different narrators and they're both different. And it's like, I'd love to find someone there to do it too, but yeah, it gets expensive. Some of the audiobook producers, I look at some of them, like one who did a royalty share with me, he charges $200 to $500 per finished hour, which is like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it can be an expensive thing, man. It's look,
Well, and I understand, because there's a lot of work involved, because like you said, it's not like you just read the whole chapter and boom, it's there, it's recorded. you're doing little sections at a time, and just like anyone else,
Yeah.
you're reading it, but you can make mistakes, and then you got to go back and fix the mistakes. And so when you're recording, are you usually doing like a paragraph at a time, or how is it you usually do that?
Um, for me, I guess when I started, I was still figuring things out. What I would try to do is like I was still in the mindset of I had to do this perfect run thing, like for each chapter, just like straight perfect. And if I messed up, I would stop and just rework that line and then keep going. What I do now is I go through and if I slip up, if I make mistakes, I just keep it in there, and then when I go back through to edit, I cut out the mistakes. If it's like too many mistakes, it's like if it's like a sentence I just can't seem to get out right, like then I'll just stop and try to practice that sentence or practice that word because sometimes like I don't know what it is, but like certain words combined in the flow of a sentence just throw me off so much. And surprisingly, the worst one for me is the word slowly. Like I don't know why, but whenever I come across the word in a sentence, I just like trip over it so hard. Just like it struggles out of my mouth. I don't know. But
So those
uh,
are in a lot of your outtakes then, I guess, huh?
yeah. Uh yeah. That's all I can say. Yeah. Just slowly. Slowly, slowly.
Slowly, slowly. You just keep practicing that word over and over again. Well, I mean, there's always things that and sometimes, and I know I've had narrators too who just read too fast.
Mm.
So there's a pace you need to find too with the book. Because I mean, I've had some that's like, holy cow! I was like, are you in a hurry to get done here? It's like that's too quick. Your mind just can't. People listening, they can't process it. So there has to be the proper pace, obviously, as well. That's important. Even in
Yeah.
a thriller or something, that is somewhat fast paced, you don't want the narrator to read necessarily at that breakneck pace.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Like from listening to audiobooks before I started doing them, I got a good sense of what works and what doesn't. So that did really help. And like you said, certain scenes they like I guess they go at a certain speed, like action scenes and stuff like that. So you don't necessarily have to speed through those, but you like to give that atmosphere of like things going fast paced. So the tone of voice in that scene can like give people a different feel of like things happening fast, and while you're still reading at that same pace. So
Character being out of breath, running or something. Yeah, you do a good job. Do a good job of that, adding that. So how do you keep track of the voices? Because
uh,
you do, some narrators just read the dialogue and they don't change the voice with each character. And in my books, Divine Devils, and you did Fallen Star as well, I have 50, 60 characters in each one. And keeping track of those is, I'm sure, a challenge to try to maintain because you do change your voice with each character.
so yeah, whenever I come across a new character, whenever I'm starting a new book, I always record a clip of that character. So, with Hunter, Athena, I always record a clip. I record a clip of them, and whenever I need to draw back that voice, I just listen to that so that I can, have something to reference back to. So, yeah, I still have the original voice recordings of Athena, Hunter, Shen, all the main characters, plus every character I've ever done in your series for the most part, except maybe like some side characters that were only in for like a scene or something. Then I just throw out a random voice and
Right. Yeah, the main ones that keep coming back. So how do you transition that voice, the dialogue back and forth? Because you say you like to generally go through the chapters. Like that's pretty good that you're able to. Okay, Hunter talks and then Athena answers. It's two different voices back and forth that dialogue.
oh, well, yeah, with that, yeah, I'm not that good yet. So, uh, well,
So
with
you do
Hunter,
break those up a little bit then.
yeah,
Yeah.
with like Hunter and Athena, that I could probably pull off because I'm so familiar with their voices that I
Yeah.
could just go back and forth like that. But like newer characters or characters with a very distinct accent, I don't, I couldn't do it. I don't think, So sometimes I do have to pause and then just reference back to that voice and then go forth and record from there. So yeah.
And I know I had some where there was like a digital filter where someone was talking and it was they were modifying their voice when they were talking. I think it was I don't remember if it was Hunter or whoever. Shows you I haven't read those books in a while, so the characters are still there, but you used a digital filter as well to make that sound, which I thought was really good because I don't think a lot of times in narration they don't always do that.
Yeah, yeah, I played around with my audio software to figure out how to do that. And I knew going in, I wanted to do something that would like separate me from most other narrators. Like you said, a lot of narrators they don't do. Sorry, trucks coming by. They don't do a lot of accents with their narration, and they also don't, they don't do a lot of modifying with. They don't play around with their software like that. So uh, stuff like that, I just, I want to bring into the audiobooks I do to somewhat distinguish myself. But it did take a little trial and error to figure out how to do the voice modifier thing to for what I did. I think it was the first scene, first chapter of Divine Devils, and there was also some voice modifying in Fallen Star. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I have characters, from all over, and I know Con Ives, uh, Reichman, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was. I think you gave him a nice accent, which was which I thought was really good. When I first heard it, I was, ooh, yeah, that works. I like that, and again, that's the because I know when I think when you first started Hunter, I don't think I liked the voice for Hunter at first, and we had and I say talk, we didn't physically talk, we were emailing back and forth, and he recorded differently, and I liked it better the second time. I saw him. He's a fairly large black man, and he has a kind of a deep baritone voice. Which does it hurt your throat after a while too? Kind of bouncing back and forth, doing especially the women voices. You having to do a female voice, you've got to hit those a little bit higher octaves.
Uh, no, not really.
Yeah,
It's only like voices that are really sharp, like Reinbuch. He's
yeah,
German. His voice that really strained, cause especially when he was cursing out Valerie on the plane when he went off on her.
yeah,
That really strained the voice because it was really sharp. When you bitch, it's just
yeah,
yeah, that was really harsh there.
yes,
Had to drink me some water after that scene. So, uh, but other than that, even the female voices, it's not really strained, I guess, because like I said, I've been playing around with accents and stuff since I was a kid. So I guess just doing that doesn't really put too much of a strain on my voice anymore. So, like I said,
yes.
except in unique situations like with Reinbach and other heavy accents. Yeah.
Yes, and so yes, there's a cover. We have the Divine Devils as my artist, and we got your name on there, narrated by Phillip Polite. That's always nice. And audiobooks, it's weird because a lot of people don't realize. Drives me crazy sometimes. Audiobooks, you have to change the covers. They're different than ebooks, and of course, they're different than paperbacks or hardcovers. And there's this little section down here. You can't put any text in this corner section down here because audio, Audible or whatever does something there. They may put some type of thing. So when the design cover, you have to make it and you have to change the size, which yeah. So another cost for audiobook, yeah, narrators. So what do you look for in a book? We talked a little bit about that. What do you look for? You look for that. You look for those characters that jump out at you. Is it the storyline? Do you usually know by the synopsis that you say, yeah, I think that's something I'd be interested in?
Yes, it's pretty much judging a book by its synopsis. So Yeah, I just look over that and I get a feel like whether or not I think I would enjoy it. And like I said, doing the audition itself helps me determine more whether or not it'll be something I would enjoy doing. Uh, so yeah, just you know, look at the cover, read the synopsis, do the audition, and if all that feels right to me, I just go for it. So.
And you said you pretty much look for like mystery, sci-fi, fan. Those are the genres you pretty much are sticking to these days now that you've somewhat established yourself, or are there other genres you think you might branch out into?
Uh, I'm always open to other genres. Like there was this historical fiction book that I was looking at the other day. It seems pretty interesting. So yeah, and one of my authors, they recommended me to another author. She writes children's books, so I'll be, if she reaches back out to me, I'll be branching out into that. So that'll be interesting. But for the most part, yeah, it's mystery, sci-fi, fantasy. Those are the genres I'm pretty much sticking to.
And so I threw up there the Divine Devils and Fallen Star. You've done those, and we saw the Mysterio. So, what are some of the other books that you've produced? And I always like to say audio producer because narrator doesn't cover what's all involved.
Yeah. Um, well, right after I did your book, the first Divine Devils, uh, did started doing some work for this publishing company called Three Ravens Publishing, and I've done a couple books for them. I got a couple more I'm working on, but Hawksbill Station, that's the first. Yeah, that's the first one that I did for them. It's a classic sci-fi series, sci-fi book. Um, uh, yeah, it's a classic sci-fi book about it's time travel, basically, about these political prisoners being sent back in time to live out their days in the I forget which era it is, but it's like long before even the dinosaurs, where just bacteria existed, pretty much. But they're sent back in time to a political prison because they were, I guess, considered like speaking out against the government, and it's, essentially an alternate timeline where the U.S. somewhat became like a dictatorship. So they were taking all they were taking anybody who spoke out against them prisoner and sending them back in time. And the author, he did the original story was a novella, and then he wrote the extended novel. So I did both of those in that audiobook. And
Nice. So is it? So I'm looking at this cover. Is this supposed to be the prison they're being sent to, or is it just kind of a generic?
yeah, that's supposed to be.
So it almost looks like it's on a rock out in space somewhere or something.
Yeah. Um, I think that that large bubble thing, that's like the time machine that they're sent back
Uh,
through on top of like the island or uh, wherever they are essentially. So yeah.
That's an interesting concept. I don't read much sci-fi, but that would be one. Yeah, I'd be interested in because it almost kind of sounds like the political world that we're going seemingly heading into these days, where any discourse or disagreement, and we want to throw people in jail or whatever. So yeah.
And he wrote that back in the 60s, the author.
Oh,
So
really? So it's an older book then?
yeah, he was,
Ah,
uh, he was ahead of his
and
time
then
about writing. So
yeah, nice. Yeah.
yeah.
And then what else have you done afterwards? I know you gave me a few other covers here.
Um, there is The Secrets of Spirit Energy by Darius Knight, and I only sent you the cover for the first one. I don't have. I've done. He has two books out right now, and I've done audiobooks for both of those books. This is a fantasy series about a man who's drawn into like alien warfare. He discovers that there's life out there and that it's coming to get him, and he has to learn to harness spiritual powers that he never knew existed. Uh, so it's a pretty interesting story.
Yeah, that was a very that cover kind of grabs you
Yeah,
on that. And so you've done a couple books for him. So how many books does he envision doing more books in that series then?
yeah. He's trying to create a like his own MCU essentially.
Uh,
He yeah. Uh, this
oh, he's
series
got grandiose visions then.
he does he does. Uh, this first series, Secrets of Spirit Energy, is it's only gonna have 3 books, but he's gonna have multiple series that interconnect with each other. And I guess he told me he plans to, I guess, create a final series where all of the series come together,
Right.
sort of like Infinity War Endgame type stuff. So
Right.
uh, he he's he's a planner. He's a planner.
So these books that you've done, did they have a lot of characters as well? And how do you deal with voices when it comes to, like fantasy characters, Were they looking for certain uh,
Uh, well,
nationality or voices or accents or something with those characters?
the main character in this series, he's black, so I basically just stole Hunter's voice and used that. So yeah.
I should have copyrighted it. Darn it.
So yeah, a lot, and I recycle a lot of voices if it's like for a certain nationality or a certain field. I've used Hunter and Athena's voices in like multiple books since yours. Uh, it just
Sure.
helps because a lot of authors they'll ask for this character is black, so I just say, okay,
Sure.
you know, even though I'm black, I don't. People tell me I don't sound black, so
Yeah,
they
whatever that is, right?
whatever that is.
I
So
suppose they have a Midwestern accent, and I'm like, okay, whatever you say. It doesn't. I don't sound like it to me, but I don't know what a Midwestern accent is, So
yeah, so Hunter's just my go-to. So
yeah,
uh, and a lot of authors they also ask for like a British accent or UK. So I always have a go-to for that. The characters in Mysteria, most of them were British, so those are usually the voices I draw back on whenever I come across another one like that. So yeah. But like I said, every whenever I start a book or whenever I run into new characters, just record a clip and just draw back on that. So even for voices I'm recycling, I try to still record that voice and name that voice so that I know what it is I'm doing. So even if I know the main character from Secret Spirit Energy sounds like Hunter, I still record a clip of that character and save it as that character. So you know I know who I'm doing, what I'm referencing. So
and that's probably getting to be a pretty good sized database of recordings. I'm guessing these books have a lot of characters in them, depending on how many you've done so far.
yeah, I think it's a few hundred. I think in there. So I have most of them on my phone, but I have a few on my Google Drive. So uh yeah, I'm pretty sure it's at least a couple hundred at least.
Yeah, well, keep them backed up to the cloud somewhere, right? So you don't want to lose those. So that would be a lot of work. So,
Yeah.
and then what other audiobooks have you done?
Uh, well, like I said, I did the second book in his series, The Secret Spirit Energy Final Conquest. I did another book by Three Rivers Publishing called It Came from the Trailer Park, Volume 3. Uh, that one, I don't have the title on there. I was
Yeah.
using that for a promo, but that, like I said, it's the third volume in this series, and every volume has been done by a different narrator. That's just the way they wanted it done. It's basically just anthology, bunch of short stories about uh, well, it's like comedy horror. So it's basically like a bunch of hillbillies getting into some shit. So uh, yeah, some supernatural stuff. But
Yeah.
there's one story where these two dudes in a trailer park. They were hunting a vampire that had taken over the trailer park. There's another one. Let's see. It was essentially a fairy bounty hunter who had to chase down a bunch of gremlins, and she almost got killed by them. So it's just a bunch of, as they say in the description of the book, hillbilly hijinks. So, yeah. So uh,
So you talked about obviously you have your own recording studio. You got a fancy mic there, which we see. So you've set up equipment. Obviously, there's a lot of cost involved, I'm sure, to lay out, to get the proper equipment and software. involved in doing the work.
Yeah. When I first got it started, I took a class on Skillshare just to get a feel for what would be required. Um, Had to get me a laptop with a lot of memory, the mic, uh, headphones, tablet, because I didn't feel like printing out the books every time I got one, so just went
Yeah.
with the tablet. Um, what else? Oh, and as I've been going, I've been upgrading. Like, I got some soundproof foam on the back wall there to help isolate the sound.
Mhm.
Uh, Still working on that, but uh, it just as I learn more, I find stuff that may help me with that. I'm trying to get an upgrade to my software. Trying to get something called Isotope that's really good with cleaning up your recordings. So that'll help improve my quality. And I'm also thinking about curtaining off my desk with some soundproof curtains, so further help isolate the sound. So,
Do you have times when background noise gets picked up?
yeah, yeah. Occasionally, when I'm going, I might not hear it while I'm recording, but when I'm going back through, I'll hear something, and then I just have to re-record that segment, and get quite annoying. So, yeah, uh,
Neighbors getting in an argument next door? If are you in a house or your apartments or
house.
house? Well, that makes it a little better at least. So it's just the outside noise you got to worry. You don't have an airport hopefully taking off over your house with jets all day long, right?
No, no, thank God, no. Uh, Occasionally have garbage truck driving by, or maybe somebody shouting loud enough that the mic will pick it up because the mic is very sensitive at times. So,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, but
So
like I
is
said,
it a what are the two types? Dynamic. There's a dynamic mic, and then there's condenser mics. I'm assuming you
uh,
have a dynamic, but I could be wrong.
yeah, dynamic, yeah, Blue Yeti, nano mic, is just what I first saw when I was taking the class, and seemed like the most affordable option at the time, and it's done right by me for the most part. I may eventually need to get an upgrade, but for right now, it's doing its job.
Yeah. So what do you think the most important aspect of being a good audio producer, and what do you think authors should look for when they're searching for an audio producer?
I think you want someone that has decent quality, but I feel at the same time the most important thing is somebody that's enthusiastic about the work. Somebody that is genuinely interested in bringing your book to life and will follow through on it. 'Cause like you said, for various reasons, you had three different producers that just up and well, I know in one case it was like due to sickness, but uh, I hear about that a lot. Authors getting with narrators, or producers getting with authors. Jesus, and either side will just flake on the other. Because my first audiobook that got contracted for and recorded, it never got published because the author just went MIA after I completed the work. To be honest, she never really communicated in the first place. She just offered me the contract, didn't say a word about what type of voices she wanted or anything, and I recorded the thing. And then afterwards, she never responded. So it just never
Was that a
happened.
royalty share contract?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so you probably didn't get anything off of that one, did you?
no, no. So I mean, I just took the experience from it. Like actually going through the process of it. So it taught me a lot. So
Yeah.
I don't see it as a loss. But, and yeah, like I said, you want somebody that's enthusiastic about doing it, and, is willing to follow through, and that's communicative. Communication is very very important in this line of work because you know the authors, they have, like, they have a vision of what they want the book to sound like in some ways. I feel like it's it's heavier with fantasy authors. Like you told me what you wanted for Hunter, and that was pretty much it. You just let me have free reign. As long as I
Mhm.
didn't, sound make no off the wall stuff. You pretty much let me do it. Like, gave me creative freedom. For a lot of fantasy authors, they create their own languages, their own concepts for these books. So a lot of times they already have a vision in their head of like what they want these characters to sound like. So it's different with each author, but that's why, like I said, it's important you have somebody that is willing to communicate with you and understands where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, and for me, it was just hearing the hunter was the main big character in the book. That was the most important. But once I started hearing the chapters, it went through pretty good. And I know occasionally I probably said, no, that maybe something a little different here, but pretty much I thought you hit the mark pretty well. And I'm fairly easy. Fantasy books, and I've often mentioned too, I don't know how I don't know that I could ever write a fantasy or sci-fi, creating these entire universes and races and of people and all that. And yeah, I'm sure they do have a certain something in their head that they wanted to do. And yeah, they would need to definitely have to communicate to you so you can get it right,
Yeah.
at least in their mind.
Yeah, it's very true. Like with Desmond, I mean not Darius. I was thinking of his character's name. Uh, Jeez, it all gets mixed up sometimes. But with Darius, he had a he has a very specific vision about what his characters want, what they'll come out like, what they sound like. Uh, and it's not so much the voices as much as the concepts, because the first book, I went through it pretty much no problem. The second book, he had a lot of alien terms in that book, and it was to the point where I had to get a pronunciation guide because he's making this stuff up, so I got to know how to pronounce it. So yeah,
It's like a Star Trek Klingon, someone who's written their entire language, and it almost sounds like he had that as well.
yeah, but he wasn't even the worst. The book I'm wrapping up now. The author, he basically he has his own fantasy world, and he's even got an Elvish language, and there were certain sentences I had to say in Elvish. So I definitely needed a pronunciation guide for that, and I had to practice like quite a few times to get it right because it's a mouthful. Those words. So.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it is. So when I always ask authors this, and you're not. I'm assuming you're not an author. Maybe you've written books. You like to write books, or maybe not. You just like to
For right now, just reading them.
produce them.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get an idea or two after you do a few of these books. But so I always ask authors what they do to bring life to characters. So in your case, I'll ask, what do you look for in characters when you're doing an audio? And I'm assuming you don't read the whole book. Maybe you do before you narrate it. Maybe you start with a chapter or two and read it. And I'm not really certain. I was thinking you told me you had never read any of my book work before you had found it. So, but what do you look for in those characters that you think you can bring to life with your voice?
Uh, I don't know. It's I guess as I'm reading, I get a feel for their personality, like what how serious or laid back they are, and I guess try to imbibe that in the voice. Because Hunter, he's a he's pretty much a no nonsense type of guy, except when it comes to women, I guess.
Yeah,
But uh, he,
which is most men, right? Women can be our weakness, right?
I don't lie about that, but yeah, uh, he has a serious problem though. But
Yeah. I know I've had several people go, I just don't like Hunter the way he is with women. I'm like, well, that's his fault, right? We all have faults, and that's one of his. And but
yeah,
he's tough and hangs in there.
yeah, seems like he's trying to work through it at the very
Yeah,
least.
yeah. Well, and we won't put any spoilers. The last book, it will go and. But anyway, sorry, I interrupted you
No,
there.
no, that's
Yeah,
all good. Um, but yes, I guess so. Like, I go based off of what the author might want, like how you described how you wanted Hunter, and then also like just getting to know that character as I'm reading gives me insight into how what I can do with my voice to help bring that out for the most part. Like there was a character in Divine Devils. I think he was an FBI agent, Detective Scanlon was talking to, and I made
Mhm.
his voice high pitched as I don't know what, and I don't know if you remember, but just
He was the
but
one that was, harassing her, right? Is that the
uh
one?
no, that's the second book. I'm talking about the
Second
first
oh, that
book.
was the second book. That's right, sorry.
Detective Scanlon was on the phone with the FBI agent, I think,
Oh,
trying to
yeah,
get him.
yeah, I'm sorry, he was a Colorado Springs cop, Scanlon, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So just how he taught how the conversation between him and Scanlon just gave me insight because I think I kind of threw some Mickey in there, like not no ho ho, but his voice was so high pitched. You you know he said I can't even remember the phrase he used, but it was weird. I just enunciated so much like alterations or something like that. I don't know,
right.
but it was just like that type of he had that type of vibe to me. So it's yeah, like I said, it's just as I read, I guess I get a feel for the character. And like when I come across a new character, I read like a couple paragraphs in that scene to like help me get that feel before I just come up with the voice. So
Right. Trying to match the personality that the writer has done.
yeah.
And that's a challenge, obviously, for, uh, producing is to come up with that because we all have. I mean, as a writer, we all have. I have a vision of what I'm writing, and I'm very much a free form pantster writer where I just write and the characters kind of just come out of me. I don't map it all out in the beginning or anything like that. So, yeah, as an author, you may have a vision, and I think sometimes as an author, my vision uh, may not necessarily match what your vision, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing to me. I'll go, yeah, actually, I kind of like that. I never really thought of that character as being sounding like that. And no, I think that does work because you don't always hear the voices in your head. We do somewhat, but not all of them and stuff. And the women's voices, I'm sure for you, are always a challenge. Obviously, a man making a woman's voice.
Yeah, I had to get used to that doing this. I knew it was something that I'd have to. It's a bridge I'd have to come across. When I started this, and like I said, I wanted to be able to really bring genuine accents and genuine voices to these books. Not just have like a stale, recycled, type of thing. But I definitely had to practice doing female voices. Uh, so it was a challenge, but it it became easy, pretty much easy after a while. Just doing Athena and what's her? I can't remember her best friend's name. It's like Erica or something like that. The one that works at the bar. Uh,
Uh,
Penny.
you're putting me on the spot. I should know these things too by now. I've written them so many times. Oh, what was her name?
Is it Penny? I feel like it might be
Penny. I think
Penny.
you're right. I think it is Penny.
Okay, yeah. So doing stuff like that that just it like the repetition, it just helps you get used to it. So like after the first couple books, like just doing female voices, it's become easier. I think the biggest hurdle was not just doing female voices, but female voices with accents. One of my other books that I did, The Prophecy by Jessica Lange. I think she's actually in the chat right now. Yeah.
Yes, Jessica is in the chat because
Yeah.
she had made a comment.
Yeah. But
I actually got a friend request from her yesterday, so I was uh, I was like, oh yeah, yes, and she just says, yes, I'm here.
yeah, she has quite a few characters in her books too. I think like
There's her.
yeah, around the same number
What?
of characters, like 40 or 50, somewhere around there. But one of the characters was a Russian vampire, I believe, and just doing a Russian accent that's also female. It's a balancing act, just layering that voice. But it was cool doing it though. But like I said, it's become easier as I've done more and more work. So it's not really as much of a strain or as much of a challenge as it once was. So pretty much anytime the authors come to me with the voices they want, I mean, most of the time it's not really a problem. So uh, she had a lot of British, yeah, she had a few British, American, Russian. Uh, she had a couple Hispanic people. French. One of the main villains was French. So it's it's a
So
lot
she
of
really challenged you.
yeah. It was cool though. It was cool.
Well, and you know, I have no doubt you were up to the challenge, and maybe it took you a couple of tries to get it right, but I've never had really any problem with any of the voices, uh, beyond just a little bit here and there. I think you definitely hit the mark. And as I told you while we were making the first Divine Devils book, it's like I don't know how you were able to come up with 50, 60 relatively distinct. I mean, they're not all going to be exactly this different, but they're going to
Right.
have some differences and stuff. But in those, especially in those scenes when they're together, that's obviously you want to be able to distinguish between one or the other, because sometimes when there's dialogue, you can't always tell.
Right.
Okay, is it the same character that's talking, or is it a different character now talking? And that's where you have to have those distinct. And yes, Jessica says, yes, you rocked them all. I know I got to keep an eye on time here because you had a little bit of a cutoff. I know Maddie James, I put that out. Madeline is I know a big fan of your stuff, and she reads all my books, and she keeps asking me when you're going to do the next The Divine Devils. I says, well, I got to get some money together first because I got to pay you. I got to pay you what you're worth, and hopefully, as you get too popular, you keep us previous authors in mind and give us a discount. So.
Oh, definitely, definitely, man, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want you. I don't want you to be out on the street, though. You know, you can't really do much in the way of audiobooks when you're if you can't afford the place you're living in and stuff. So,
Yeah.
uh, but anyway, so do you have some books? You mentioned a few books that you were working on. What are you working on now? You have some in the pipeline?
Yeah. Like I said, the publishing company, Three Ravens Publishing, they have me working on a few of their books. Honestly, I've supposed to been working on since the summer, but the editor of that company, he's a cool dude, and he's cool with he's not really strict with time frame. But I have a few books that I'm working on from him. It came from the Trailer Park Volume 3.5. They apparently there are so many authors that did submissions for their short stories that they couldn't fit them all in the third volume. So they came out with I guess a half volume. So there's that one. There's a book based on the game called Car Wars. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's another book. It's another collection of short stories based on that. Then there's a third collection of short stories that's like based around adventures in space. Forget what it's called. Man, that is a shame that I don't even remember the name of the book I'm working on. But there's those three. Uh, Me and Jessica, we actually came to an agreement about me doing the second book in her series the other day, so I should be getting started on that soon. Wrapping up that fantasy series, that fantasy book I mentioned, it's called Altera Quest. I'm doing that, um, and then I'm also wrapping up another book. It's called Vengeance. It's the first book in the Mage Hunter series that's written by Mel Todd. Uh, so uh, yeah, got a few books in the work, and well, I'm waiting on Darius. He's writing his third book, and I'm supposed to be doing that one too.
Well, I guess if I'm going to have you do the third book in the Divine Devil series, I better get on your schedule here. So it sounds like you're going to be a busy guy going forward, which is great. I mean, that's what you want, right? So and I'm glad it's being successful for you.
Thank you.
So how can people find you if they're looking for an audio producer and get you booked out for the next several years here?
Uh, I recently, I got a website. It's still a work in progress, but it's there. You can, follow that link, and there will be a tab where you can contact me through email or phone. Not my actual phone number, but a phone. Uh, and there's also my email. I made a new email, not that mouthful I told you last time. Phil's narration at gmail.com. People can reach out to me on there. So yeah, that's pretty much how you
Anyone
get.
can always contact me. I'm always able to get you in contact, Philip, with Philip, and I'm sure they can find you through ACX still as well, right? You're because you can usually at least chat with, send messages through there, and you're just under Phillip Polite,
Yes. Yes.
and then you're on Facebook as well.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Most of the
Uh,
world,
yes. Facebook and Instagram. Just barely, but I'm there. So
yeah.
um,
Good.
yeah, trying to get better with my social media presence, but I'm working.
Well, it's one of those. I mean, when I didn't do Facebook till I became an author, and I really didn't want to, but you kind of had to. But it can be a cesspool, and I used to do Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and I don't even get on there anymore. It's so bad. So yeah, you kind of have to pick and choose. Yeah, we got to get through this next election because it's so much election stuff right now. Which no matter which side you're on, it's definitely a lot of stuff you got to weed through. I wish there were sometimes I could filter it more and
Yeah.
not know that. I mean, I don't mind seeing it sometimes, but sometimes it's just so much back and forth that you just kind of shake your head and go, okay, whatever. Yeah. Let's get to November, whatever it is, 5th or whatever it is, and 6th or whatever it is, and get over with. So, okay. All right. Well, great. Yep. So again, thanks, Philip. Great having you on. Great seeing you again. I'm glad things are going well for you. Like I said, I've always was happy with your work, and I definitely want to move forward eventually with the other two books. As for me, it's just it hasn't been enough sales yet that I need to get some more. So everybody, for Philip and myself, download more audiobooks.
Please.
All the ones that we have. If you love listening to him, you'll enjoy his voices and all the different range of voices as he does and all that. But again, all the best to you. I don't know if there's anything else you want to tell people about yourself or how to contact you. Anything else?
Nah, they got the link, got the email. That's that's pretty much all I got. I appreciate you having me back on here. It's good to see you again,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, no problem. And we'll have a recording of this on my YouTube channel, and it also shows up under my Facebook too. And I'll send you those links, and you can share with people who weren't able to be on this morning and listen in. And hopefully, others will find out more about your work, and hopefully my work too, and Jessica's, and everybody else's out there and stuff. So. But thanks again for being on. We will be reaching out and talking to you here in the future.
All right.
Take
Thank you.
care.
You too.
All right. Thanks, everyone. It was great having Philip on. He had a little bit of, we want to make sure good because I think he's got to go do his real job and get some help pay the bills and stuff. But thanks for everyone for listening. I will be, I have an event this Saturday, Broomfield Days, which is over in Midway Park in Broomfield. Right now, the weather's not looking the greatest, so it's possible if it's raining, I might not be able to go to that event because obviously books and rain don't match up, but I'm hoping it holds off long enough so we can get the event. But that's a great event. Lots of people at that event. They have a parade and 5K run and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's a great event. When the weather's good, there's usually 5,000 to 10,000 people there, so it's a lot of people. So I'm hoping the weather holds off and I can be out there and see people. And after that, I'll be at Sheridan Days, which is the following Saturday, which is also another outdoor event. But I do have lots of great authors lined up in a week. It'll be Wednesday, the 25th. I'm going to be talking to S. Lee Manning and J.B. Manning. They're both authors, married, and lawyers, and I've been wanting to get them on for a while. And then I'm going to have Margaret, and I'm going to Shuma. Always going to mess up her, but she's a well-known author, Canine series, Timber Creek Canine series. I'm going to have her on October 7th, and we're going to talk about her new book. And I've known Margaret for a little while. We met a few years ago at Westminster Library, so it should be great talking to her. And then I have a whole bunch of more authors' names I got when I was at BoucherCon that I'm going to be scheduling. May start doing these once a week. I have so many people that are interested in being on. So, but anyway, thanks everyone. Take care. Stay warm or stay cool, depending on you are, and we will see you next week.